Hello, I have an Audi A6 that's over 20 years old, and as you can see, the lower parts of the rear doors are covered in rust with visible peeling paint. In this video, I'll attempt to repair the door using a simple and budget-friendly method without using a welding machine. Of course, it would be easier to replace the door, and I might do that in the future, but for now, I'll start by exposing the problem area, removing the trim, and assessing the condition of the door from the inside. First, I need to remove the lower molding and door trim, and then we'll see that condition of the door. I hope there won't be too much rust. Do you see what's happening? I'm afraid the door is completely corroded, but let's not jump to conclusions and continue disassembling everything. I've removed the door molding and trim. There is nothing complicated about it. Similar videos are already on the channel. Rust is clearly visible at the bottom of the door. The center is relatively okay, but the right corner of the door is the most problematic area. Now, let's see what's inside the door in terms of rust. I can say that there isn't too much rust here. The only problem spotted with the hole, as there is no solid metal left there. Here's my plan. I'll manually remove the rust from the inside of the door with sandpaper and then treat everything with rust converter. The main problem is this corner. I'll try my best to remove all the peeling paint, eliminate these rusty areas, and see what's left of the door. I've sanded the door a bit using a coral wheel and 80 grit orbital sander abrasive. This way, I've sanded the entire bottom until the metal is visible. I removed the paint from the bottom of the door, and I see no rust there. From the inside, I'm sanding the problematic areas with an 80 grit abrasive. After finishing sanding the door, I'll use a rust converter and apply it to all the rusty areas. Once the rust converter dries, I'll sand the metal again. As you can see, I've applied the rust converter to all the problem areas, and now I'll wait for a day. After a day, the rust converter has darkened and dried. I take 120 grit abrasive and continue removing any remaining rust, then apply acid primer. I've sanded away the rust and, at the same time, marked the area that will be painted using masking tape. Using 120 grit sandpaper, I removed that old paint, and now I am applying acid primer to treat all the rusty areas and bare metal. Then I cover it with acrylic primer. I've applied the acid primer, waiting for it to dry, and covered it with acrylic primer. After the acrylic primer dries, I take fiberglass pieces, epoxy resin, and use them to patch up the hole in the door. I taped the front side of the door to make it easier to lay the fiberglass from the inside. Cut the fiberglass into small pieces. Then I take resin and add 2 grams of hardener to it. After that, I use a brush to apply epoxy resin to the problem area, apply the fiberglass, and then saturate it again with the epoxy mixture. Once the epoxy resin has dried, I remove the tape and continue pitching up the hole, but this time from the front side of the door. I added a bit more fiberglass, and now I wait for everything to dry before starting the patching process. After a day, the epoxy resin has dried well. It turned out quite good, actually. So I think this is even better than if I had tried to weld and overheat the metal. Next, I am using an orbital sander to remove any excess fibers that are sticking out. In the next step, I'll be filling the bottom of the door with putty-containing fiberglass. I've applied the first layer of putty. There are still many dents and irregularities, so I'll apply a second layer. In the end, I'll use universal putty to make the surface smooth. After the putty has dried, I sand it with 120 grit abrasive. Overall, it turned out more or less normal. There are some pits and pores that I fill with universal putty. In the end, I applied 2 layers of universal putty. Next, I take an orbital sander 120 grit abrasive and start making the surface perfectly smooth. I always use an orbital sanding to smooth out the directional scratches from sandpaper. So, after using 120 grit sandpaper, I sanded the surface with 180 grit abrasive and will go over the entire surface with 240 grit. By feel, the surface is smooth. I don't sense any dents or irregularities anywhere. Next, I take acid primer and touch up the areas where the metal is exposed. After the acid primer, I cover the entire repair area that will be painted with acrylic primer. I'll use a special attachment on the spray can to make it easier to apply the primer. The acrylic has dried and now I apply the second layer. I'll apply it more densely to cover the transition from putty to the old paint. Well, it turned out more or less normal. Now, as this primer dries, I'll try to lightly sand it with 240 grit abrasive. In the end, I applied another layer of acrylic primer, held it up to the light, and don't see the transition from putty to old paint. So I think I can move on to the first layer of paint. Once the primer has dried, I take the orbital sander to prepare the surface for painting. First, I will use 240 grit sandpaper, then 320, 400 and 500. In areas with corners, I'll use a soft 500 grit sandpaper. I've sanded the surface, and as you can see, in some places, due to the thin layer of primer, the old paint has been exposed. But since I managed to make the surface smooth and even, I degrease it, then remove dust with a take cloth and grab a spray can of paint. By the way, they matched the paint in the spray can to the color of my car. I'll start with a light mist for the first layer and then apply 2 solid layers to cover the light primer. So I applied the first misty layer of paint. Initially, the spray can start spitting out paint, creating some large drops, but I think after 2 good layers of paint, the entire surface will even out. I applied a thick first layer of paint. I'll wait for it to dry and then apply the second layer. The paint is applied and it seems to have turned out okay. After the paint dries, I'll move on to the clear coat. I'll be using a 2-component clear coat. I'll start with the misty layer and then apply 2 full layers of clear coat. The misty layer has dried and now I apply the first layer of clear coat. The first complete layer of clear coat has dried and now I am applying the second layer. the surface has dried well. As always, I have some dust particles here because I paint in the garage, and dust comes from all sides. I think the two-component clear coat will protect the surface, and then I'll see when rust starts appearing here. Some time has passed. I polished this painted part of the door, and I'm quite satisfied with the result. I enjoyed using the spray can for applying the paint. I think this door should last for some time without rust. Share your thoughts on this repair in the comments. Until next time.